Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of Toddster's Magical Mystery Review. I'm your host Toddster, and today we'll be looking at Abbey Road by the Beatles. And came out September 26, 1969 on Apple Records. And this is the last recorded album, even though they had, even though Let It Be was the last released album, but it was recorded before this album, so this is the real farewell, so to speak. So what were they doing? Well, as I said, they made Let It Be earlier in the year 1969, which probably wasn't the best pleasant experience, and to top it all off, they were having many troubles at Apple, especially when Alan Klein comes in the picture. But yet despite all that, they all thought, let's make a better album, and so they brought in George Martin again, with full participation, and thinking about it, thinking about the White Album and Let It Be, there's not much George Martin sprinkles, if you get my drift, but here he's back in demand. And so let's take a look at the song. So we start off with Come Together, and it's an awesome song, yet a great drum riff from Ringo, if there's such a thing as a drum riff, ting ting do. And this is John wrote this sort of like I guess he tried to write a song for Timothy Leary. He's trying to run for governor in California, which didn't help much, but years later he got sued by Morris Levy because he borrowed a couple lines from Chuck Berry's "You Can't Catch Me," and that's how he made the rock and roll album, including a cover of that song. So we'll talk about that when we get to that. But yeah, it's a great number with gobbledygook lyrics, and so we go into Something from George, and it's probably his best known song. And he wrote this during the White Album, but he sort of like put it on ice for a while. But it's a lovely song, and to me it's one of the best love songs ever. Even though Frank Sinatra calls it his favorite Lennon-McCartney tune. And the next song is Maxwell's Silverhammer. It's a bit of a silly song from Paul, and even the others didn't like making that record because it took forever to record, because Paul wanted to make it perfect. And it's an okay number, nothing big. But then we go into Oh Darling, and wow. It's Paul's little doo-wop pastiche, and yet, what a screamer this is. And Paul, when it came to preparing for his vocal, he would go into the studio very early and practice it to himself. Because he haven't screamed like that for a while. Not since Kansas City and I'm Down, and But then we go into Octopus's Garden from Ringo. This is his second composition, and yet the only one that has all four Beatles playing on it. And he wrote this when he left the band temporarily at the White Album. He was on a boat in Sardinia with Peter Sellers, and I guess the captain told this tale about how octopuses build gardens out of stones and shiny things, and think, there's a song there. Yeah, and then we go into the last song of the first side, I Want You She So Heavy, from John, a little love song from John to Yoko, and yeah, it's okay, a bit too long though, even though I love how it abruptly ends, and you kept thinking, how's it going to end? When's it going to end? But then we flipped the record, and another song from George, probably my favorite George song, Here Comes the Sun. And he wrote this at the back of Eric Clapton's garden, and he saw Skip a meeting at Apple, and I believe it was a beautiful day, and so I guess the song came to him, just like that. And yeah, it's a wonderful song. I love the acoustic guitar, and and the strings, and the Moog synthesizer. There's a bit of Moog on this album, which George had brought, even though he made a whole album of experimentation with the Moog, and it's perfect. And we go into another perfect song, Because. Now John wrote this so inspired by hearing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata in backwards, and and the harmonies, which is a triple track 3-part harmony. It's sort of like 9 voices. I love how it sounds, very, very whoa. And then we go into the big medley, or big suites, or whatever you call it. And we start off with You Never Give Me Your Money from Paul. Yes, it's about Paul's view on the state of Apple at that time. And yet, sort of like Happiness Is a Warm Gun. I mean, you hear different styles of music all in one song. It starts, as a piano ballad, and then goes into sort of boogie woogie piano, and then it ends with nursery rhyme. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all good children. And then we go into Sun King. Another song with great harmonies. Sort of like Because. Yet was inspired by Fleetwood Mac's Albatross, which was a big hit at that time. And I guess they thought, well, let's do something like Albatross and put some harmonies on top of it. And wow, yeah. And then we go into Mean Mr. Mustard, a little song from John, which he wrote in India, and yet it's okay, even though he changed the lyrics a bit, to segue into the next song. Originally it was his sister Shirley works in the pod, but then he changed it to Pam, as in the next song, Polythene Pam. Yeah, he wrote this when he was meeting with Allen Ginsberg, and he met this lady dressed up in polythene, and I guess he also thought of he was also thinking of one of the early fans back in the Cavern days. Used to be called Polythene Pat. She used to eat polythene all the time. Yeah, it's a good song. Wonderful drumming from Ringo, and then it segues into She Came In Through the Bathroom Window from Paul. And yeah, back then they had this the group of fans used to, which they call the Apple Scruffs, which George would later write a song about. I guess he was inspired by those fans, breaking into their homes, through the bathroom window, and seeing all this stuff. And yeah, it's another good too. But check out Joe Cocker's rendition, and then we go into Golden Slumbers. Now Paul wrote the medley wrote the melody to this song. He read some he looked at some sheet music of a lullaby called Cradle Song, and he liked the words, and yet he put a little tune to it because he couldn't read sheet music, and but then it segues into Carry That Weight. And that's a sort of a reprise of You Never Give Me Your Money, and yet all four Beatles sing on the chorus. I mean, you could clearly hear Ringo singing along, and then it's the end. Yeah, and all four Beatles, so give their chance, playing solos, and they let Ringo play a drum solo, which he wasn't a big fan of it, but yeah, what a great solo. And then Paul, George, and John do a sort of guitar battle, and then it ends with probably the most meaningful and loveliest lyric in all Beatles songs, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And then we hear a little hidden track, Her Majesty, from Paul. It was supposed to be in the medley between Mr. Mustard and Polythene Pam, but Paul didn't like how it sounded, so he thought, just stick it at the end of the master tape, even though it wasn't supposed to be on the album. I guess that the mastering engineers sort of didn't read the manuscript or whatever. But once they heard that song, after 20 seconds of silence, they like how they sounded, so they stuck it on the album. And so yeah, so that's the album. Now let's take a look at the album cover. Now, like all Beatles album covers, this is probably one of the most iconic sleeves, and it was supposed to be it was originally going to be called Everest, after Jeff Emmerich's favorite cigarettes, who was the engineer. But yet, instead of risking their lives in Mount Everest, they thought, let's go up on the street and take a picture of us walking. And so the photographer was Ian McMillan, and yet he shot several shots of them walking, backwards and forwards and all that. And of course, it all starts, the whole rumor about Paul is dead and all that, but don't believe all that, but it's a great photo, and it's still, fans still go to Abbey Road and take a picture of it, and it's certainly in my bucket list. But yeah, it's wonderful sleeve, and the back as well is the it's the street sign, even though he put in Beatles in here a bit later. This lady walking across came upon was sort of like a happy accident. So what is my closing remark? Well, this happens to be probably my favorite Beatles album. I mean, it's got everything. I mean, it's sort of like, elements of their past career all rolled into one album. I mean, the 3-part harmonies, sort of reminiscent of This Boy and all the early tunes, and the sort of whimsical effects, sort of similar to Sgt. Pepper, and the great arrangements from George Martin. I mean, it's a must-have. It's a must-have to every record collection. It's wonderful. I mean, what a way to end a career on a high note. And so, I would give this 5 Beatles out of 5. And as for the 5th Beatle, it will be this Volkswagen Beetle. So there you have it, Abbey Road by the Beatles. My name is Toddster. You've just watched another magical mystery review, and join me again next time when we start looking at the solo albums. Until then, toodaloo!